Jimi Hendrix once said, "We play very, very loud. We play loud to create a certain effect, to make it all as physical as possible, so it goes right through you. It should hurt." We were in Howlin doing a TV show and the equipment was the best ever. They said, "Play as loud as you like." And we were really grooving when this little fairy comes running in and yells, "Stop! Stop! The ceiling in the studio below is falling down!" But before late 60s artists like Jimmy could send 200 watts of Marshall Plexi through 16 speakers, electric guitarists were stuck with small combo amps that only put out 15 or so watts. Dick Dale, eager to push the limit of guitar amps, worked very closely with Leo Fender to invent the first 100-watt amplifier. Mother effing game changer. But before these powerful, overdriven amps were demanded by guitarists, who made turning your amp too loud popular? Remember, this wasn't a desired effect just yet. Listen to this song from 1947, particularly the guitar. That was Fat Boy Rag by Junior Bernard with Bob Willis, and quite possibly the first ever record that truly embraced amplifier breakup. You see, if you turn tube amps all the way up and strum really hard, the amp can't handle it. The tubes hum from too much electricity and heat. We call this overdrive or distortion. To make an extremely long story short and somewhat misleading, overdrive describes the physical act of overloading a circuit, and distortion is the gritty breakup effect that happens when you do that. If you Google the difference between those two terms, you'll get vastly different answers than that, but just hold on. We've got like 40 years of history to get through first. Muddy Waters further experimented and proliferated the use of overdriven amps. Here's his 1948 song, "I Can't Be Satisfied."
Well, honey, ain't no way in the world for me to be satisfied. And I just can't.
Also from 1948, Gypsy Woman. Now, quick tangent. The Rolling Stones got their name from the Muddy Waters song, Rollin' Stone.
Mr. Willis, we're big fans. We named our band after one of your songs, Rolling Stone.
And also changed the world with their insanely distorted song, I Can't Get No Satisfaction, which we'll get to later. Then, in 1949, we get what I consider to be the first rock song of all time. 1949, Goree Carter's Rock Awhile. Carter was doing distorted Chuck Berry riffs years before Chuck Berry. Then in 1950, we get Boogie in the Park by Joe Hill Lewis, guitar played by Lewis. In 1951, Willie Kaiser, guitarist for Ike Turner and the Rhythm Kings, played through a Fender basement amp that had a busted tube from being dropped on the street in the rain. I don't really know what the rain had anything to do with it, but it definitely didn't help. You can hear this sound on the song Rocket 88. People often refer to this as the first rock song, but I mean, Rock Awhile came 2 years earlier and literally has the word rock in the name. So, in 1951, Howlin' Wolf enters the conversation. His first song, How Many More Years, has insane power and overdrive.
How many more years?
His guitarist's name, Willie Johnson. There's even a famous scene in the movie Cadillac Records about Howlin' Wolf's guitarist's loud sounds, which, if you haven't seen, pause this video, go watch that entire movie, cry for an hour, then come back and finish this video. You know what, let's just watch that scene right now, because I f***ing love it.
Cut.
You on the guitar, what's your name?
Hubert, sir.
Hubert.
Walter, behave yourself.
My fucking name is Hubert.
Shut up.
Shit.
Who do you think you are playing that loud?
Huh? Yeah, lower the amp, not the guitar, the amp.
Get it right, Hubert.
Don't talk to him no more.
I'm the band leader. Reckon you ain't ever worked with one before. You want something done, you ask me. I'ma tell him what he has to be doing.
All right.
That's right.
Now, these guitar tones shook the earth because distortion wasn't typically a sought-after sound. Leo Fender always wanted to make the cleanest sound possible, and probably rolled in his grave the day that Boss DS1 distortion pedal sold its 2 millionth unit. In 1953, we get The Things I Used to Do by Guitar Slim.
The things that I used to do.
Fun fact, that song was covered by Freddie King, Buddy Guy, Jimi Hendrix, Van Morrison, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Chuck Berry, and countless others. In 1954, James Cotton released Cotton Crop Blues.
Ain't gonna raise no more cotton.
This sounds like the British invasion 10 years before the British invasion. Cotton Crop Blues was probably the genesis of the British invasion blues-style guitar playing and use of power chords. His song, Love Me Baby, from the year prior was probably the genesis of 1950s rockabilly guitar. Think Chet Atkins, or maybe Dan Auerbach when he feels like taking a couple months off in the woods. That same year, in 1954, by the same guitarist, Pat Hare, we get I'm Gonna Murder My Baby. In 1955, we get Maybelline by Chuck Berry.
Maybelline, why can't you be true? Oh, Maybelline, why can't you be true? You done started doing the things you used to do.
His debut song, Nuff Said. 1956's The Train Kept a Rollin' by Johnny Burnette and the Rock and Roll Trio.
The train kept a rolling on and on with a heave and a hole. Well, I just couldn't let it go.
This guitar sound is likely recorded by Grady Martin, a session guitarist, not Paul Burleson, the trio's guitarist. Grady Martin would go on to play the famous bass solo on Marty Robbins' Don't Worry, and he used a guitar amp with an intentionally dislodged tube to create a slightly overdriven sound. But if you played that tone in Guitar Center these days, the workers would probably refer to you as Clean Amp Sam. In 1959, we get one of my favorite songs of all time, Sleepwalk by Santo and Johnny. Straight to number 1. Fun fact, it's actually a recreation of Caravan by Duke Ellington.
Now we're going to slow it down a little bit. I'm guessing most of you folks have heard of
it. I'll cue you in. Caravan.
In 1961, Dick Dale worked closely with Fender to push the limits of amps, producing the first 100-watt amplifier that packed quite the punch. Shit was getting louder and louder, and distortion was in.